Yeah, this is crazy. I'm here, y'all. Excuse me, sir. I'm here. I am here. This is what we going through. Excuse me. Stay with me. This is what we going through. This is the house that she kept them kids at, y'all. And I gotta clean it. Oh, God.
Did y'all want to take the stove and the refrigerator out or what?
That stove and that refrigerator need to come out.
No, I'm not saying that it was. Y'all gonna take it out or y'all want us to take it out?
Where we gonna put it at once we take it out, sir?
Lay it right there, yeah.
Lay it right there?
Yeah. You know those scrappers?
Yeah, but I need somebody to walk me downstairs. You want to? Have you been down there yet?
No, I ain't been down. Come on. Okay.
Ooh-wee.
Hold on.
Come on, y'all going.
Give me my mask. Where is the mask?
In Pontiac, Michigan, 3 children were discovered living alone in a townhouse without parental care for an extended period. The case, later described as one of the most concerning child welfare situations in the area, shocked both the community and authorities. How could these children have gone unnoticed for so long? Facing such difficult circumstances? This is the story of 3 children who, despite being left to navigate incredibly difficult circumstances, found a way to persevere. It's also the story of the investigation that brought their situation to light, and the pursuit of justice that followed. But before we begin, I just want to take a moment to thank you, my incredible viewers and subscribers. Your likes, shares, and thoughtful comments don't just support this channel, they help keep these stories alive. If you're new here, welcome. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and become part of this growing community, one that believes every story deserves to be told, and no victim should ever be forgotten. Now, let's get into it. The story began in 2020, when Kelli Bryant, a 34-year-old mother, made a decision that would have lasting consequences for her children. She moved out of the townhouse in Pontiac, Michigan, leaving behind 3 of her 4 children. At the time, her children included a 15-year-old boy and 2 girls, aged 12 and 13. Bryant took 1 child with her, but left the other 3 behind, with no arrangements in place for their care. Instead of finding a safe home or family members to care for them, the children were left to live alone, in a house that would soon become uninhabitable. No adults checked in, no relatives stepped in to help, no social workers or family services were involved. They were left to fend for themselves, in a home that was quickly falling into disrepair. Their isolation was complete. No one knew what was happening behind those walls, and no one stepped in to change it. What started as a relocation led to years of abandonment.
Her daughters were hiding in a bathroom that was filled with feces, piles of trash, and completely non-functional, while her son was hiding in another room. Police were astonished to find anyone in the location because it appeared to be uninhabitable, with piles of garbage and refuse several feet high, including large amounts of human excrement.
Over the next 4 to 5 years, the children endured circumstances no child should ever have to experience. From the outside, their house, located in a quiet suburban neighborhood, seemed ordinary. But inside, it was something entirely different. The home had deteriorated significantly. Living conditions were far from safe, far from healthy. Essential upkeep was neglected, and the space had become increasingly unlivable. Despite it all, the children somehow survived. No adult supervision, no guidance, no one to make sure they were okay. They had no access to outside help. They were left with nothing but each other. Each day was a struggle as they fought to survive in a house that had long since become uninhabitable. Once a week, Kelli Bryant would arrange for food deliveries. These deliveries were their only source of sustenance. When their supplies ran low, the children would text their mother, and she would arrange for more food to be left on the doorstep. But over time, those deliveries became less frequent. The children found themselves with less and less to eat, relying on whatever was left from previous weeks. Over time, those deliveries nearly stopped. They had no access to basic necessities, no soap, no toilet paper, no shampoo. Hygiene was non-existent. They were forced to navigate a world where their most basic needs were ignored. And the isolation? It didn't stop with food. The children were confined to the house every time. They were told not to answer the door, not to speak to anyone, not to leave. There was no outside world for them, no school, no friends, no community support. The only one who ever stepped outside was the eldest child, a boy. On rare occasions, he would leave once to check the mailbox, once to feel the grass beneath his feet. Those brief moments were his only contact with the world outside, but they weren't enough. He couldn't tell anyone what was happening, and those moments of freedom, they were fleeting. The days blurred together as they remained completely cut off from the world. Their home was crumbling around them, their resources vanishing, and still, no one came. Meanwhile, Kelli Bryant lived elsewhere. She knew what was happening. She knew what they were enduring. And still, she did nothing. The father of the children who had been incarcerated until 2022 made several attempts to reconnect with his children after his release. Determined to be a part of their lives, he sought custody and tried to establish contact through legal channels. However, Kelli Bryant consistently blocked his efforts, refusing to allow him access to the children. Despite his persistent attempts, the children remained hidden, and he was powerless to intervene in their lives. His attempts to rebuild a relationship with them were thwarted at every turn. The children's paternal grandfather also reached out to Bryant on several occasions. He invited her and the children to family gatherings, hoping for a chance to reconnect and provide support. However, just like their father, the grandfather's attempts were met with rejection. Bryant refused to allow any contact with the children, keeping them completely isolated from their extended family as well. This left both the father and grandfather in the dark about the children's situation, unaware of the neglect and isolation they were enduring. Despite their best efforts, both the father and the grandfather were kept at arm's length, unable to intervene in the children's lives or offer them the support they desperately needed. Their attempts to reach out only highlighted the lengths to which Bryant went, to maintain control and keep her children hidden away from the world, including from those who loved them and wanted to help. But in February 2025, after years of being cut off from the outside world, the children's situation was finally uncovered. It all started when the landlord, who had not received rent payments since October 2024, grew concerned. He hadn't heard from Kelli Bryant in months and, worried about the circumstances, decided to call the police for a welfare check on the townhouse. When the officers arrived and entered the home, they were immediately taken aback by the state of the living conditions. The house was unrecognizable, a far cry from the home it had once been. The home was in extremely poor condition, with debris throughout, and the air heavy with an overwhelming odor. The children were hiding in different rooms of the house, desperately trying to stay out of sight. The two girls were found in the bathroom, a space that had become unlivable due to severe neglect. The conditions inside were extremely poor, making it difficult for officers to navigate safely. They had to take precautions as they moved through the home, due to the hazardous environment. The 15-year-old boy was found in a different room, equally hidden and alone. The officers didn't know what to expect, but the scene that unfolded in front of them was beyond anything they could have imagined. The children, visibly disoriented and unsure of what was happening, had been left in these conditions for years, cut off from the outside world, and denied the most basic needs of any child. The children were immediately taken to the hospital for urgent medical care. Doctors noted concerns about their overall well-being, including signs of malnutrition and the effects of prolonged hardship. Their health reflected the difficult conditions they had endured over time. But the physical toll wasn't the only sign of their suffering. The children had received no formal education during their years of isolation. They struggled to perform basic tasks that most children learn early on, like brushing their teeth and even using the toilet properly. They had never been taught how to care for themselves in the most basic ways, and their isolation had left them unprepared to live in the world outside of the house. As the details of the case were revealed, it became clear just how dire the situation had been. The Oakland County Sheriff's Department released a statement describing the discovery of the children as one of the most concerning child welfare cases they had ever encountered. Sheriff Michael J. Bouchard, reflecting on his long career, stated, "Throughout my extensive career in this field, I have never encountered a scenario as dire and prolonged as this one, involving abandonment and neglect." Authorities described the conditions as some of the worst they had ever encountered in a child welfare case, saying, "It kind of reminds me of the commercials you see where animals are living in very deplorable conditions. Take that times 10, and that's what the kids were living in, for years." The children had not attended school since they were left on their own, spending most of their time watching television and playing games. When authorities found them, their clothing was unkempt, and they showed clear signs of prolonged hardship. The 15-year-old boy slept on a mattress, while his two sisters made do with makeshift bedding. Once full of potential, these children had been left to navigate an environment that no child should ever have to endure. But the story began to unfold on February 14th, 2025, when Kelli Bryant was arrested and charged with severe offenses concerning child safety, facing some of the most significant legal consequences in the state. This charge was a direct reflection of the years of neglect and isolation her children had suffered. On February 20th, 2025, Bryant was formally charged with 3 counts of serious child welfare violations. During the court hearing, Judge Rhonda Fowlkes Gross set her bond at $250 million, citing concerns about a potential flight risk and the gravity of the case. The judge emphasized that Bryant's decisions had put her children in danger and raised broader concerns about responsibility and care. Her actions were described as highly concerning by officials. Despite the arrest offering some measure of relief to the community, who had been unaware of the hidden suffering, the damage to the children had already been done. For years, they had lived in isolation, neglected, without the care they desperately needed. No arrest, no charge, could undo the trauma they had endured. The physical and emotional scars of those years would stay with them forever. Bryant's defense lawyer attempted to shift the narrative, arguing that she might have been suffering from an acute psychiatric condition at the time of the abandonment. While this was presented as a possible explanation for her actions, it didn't change the reality of what had transpired. Prosecutors have indicated their intention to seek the termination of Bryant's parental rights. If convicted, Bryant faces up to life in prison. The case of Kelli Bryant and her abandoned children sent shockwaves through the Pontiac community. As details of the children's suffering emerged, local officials were deeply disturbed by the horrific conditions in which the children had been forced to live. Pontiac's mayor publicly expressed his dismay, emphasizing the urgent need for greater attention to families in distress. The community's response was swift and compassionate. Neighbors, local businesses, and organizations rallied together, offering what support they could to help the children begin to heal from their traumatic experience. Clothes, stuffed animals, and monetary donations flooded in, as people from all walks of life came together to provide for the children's immediate needs. The outpouring of support was a testament to the kindness of the community, but it also highlighted just how deeply the community had been impacted by the tragedy unfolding so close to home. One Pontiac resident, Emma Gross, who lived just a few streets away, expressed her disbelief, saying, "Everybody is upset about it. This is right in our neighborhood. How could something like this happen? The shock reverberated throughout the community, and many struggled to comprehend how such a tragedy could unfold so close to home. Bryant was held at Oakland County Jail, and authorities indicated that the case would soon be handed over to prosecutors for review. The children, meanwhile, were examined at a hospital for evaluation and were placed in the custody of a relative. The case also prompted wider discussions about gaps in the school system, gaps that allowed the children's absence to go unnoticed for years. In response, law enforcement officials are advocating for changes in state school codes, including a requirement that schools obtain written confirmation when a child transfers to another institution. This would help ensure that children like these are not left unnoticed, and that systems are in place to prevent such cases from happening again. The Pontiac case serves as a stark reminder of the devastating impact that neglect can have on a child's development and overall well-being. It also raises difficult questions about the roles of family, community, and the system in protecting children from harm. While the children are now safe, their journey toward healing is only just beginning. Justice for them may take time, but with the ongoing legal proceedings, the community's support, and the reforms that may arise from this case, there is hope that future children will not endure the same suffering. The story of their survival and their determination to rebuild their lives continues. It serves as a call to action for all of us to do more to protect vulnerable children and to ensure that no child is ever left behind. The work of creating safer, more supportive communities for children must start now, so that what happened in Pontiac doesn't happen again. But we also have a similar case like the Blackstone House of Horror, where a mother kept her children hidden and neglected in deplorable conditions for years, much like the Pontiac case. The state of the house was beyond shocking, and the children were left to survive in unimaginable neglect. Check it out on this channel for more details. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that matter.